Riley Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Here we go on a Monday. It means it's time to talk to Colt Thompson from Sports Illustrated in his weekly spot as we go around the NFL with Cole. And Cole, a lot of big things to discuss, including a big deal that happened yesterday. The Titans make the trade official. They acquire Julio Jones for a second-round pick. This year, a fourth-round pick. Next year, your initial reaction to the trade and what it means for both the Falcons and, of course, the Tennessee Titans.
Well, I remember coming on the show last week and saying my exact words were, watch the Tennessee Titans trade a second and a fourth round pick to go get Julio Jones. And I was right. Now, I was wrong saying that it was going to be a 2022 fourth round pick. It's a 2023 fourth round pick. And they also sent a sixth round pick back to Atlanta. But as I've said multiple times, I felt that there were two teams going to make a push to go get Julio Jones. One was going to be the New England Patriots. They were going to be the one that would offer the first round pick. The other one that was going to be the one that was more stable, the one that was actually going to come through with the deal, was the Tennessee Titans with the deal that they came through with. I love this move for John Robinson. I love this move for the offense. An offense that took a big hit in three different areas. One, their tight end in Johnny Smith leaving for New England. Two, their superstar possessional receiver in Corey Davis leaving for your New York Jets. And the other one, and the big one possibly, Arthur Smith, the architect of the revival of Ryan Tannehill and this offense, leaving for the Atlanta Falcons this past offseason. So for them to be able to go ahead and add another piece to go along with Josh Reynolds, to go along with Dylan Raydun to the offensive line, to give Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry a little bit more of a cushion in the offensive approach. I love this move for Tennessee offensively. Now, we're going to talk about this probably in the next segment, but I still believe that when you look at Tennessee, I do not think that they're right in that conversation along with Buffalo and along with Kansas City for the leader of the AFC contention. They're almost there. They've done a really good job making sure they're in the conversation for the playoff push and the leaders of the AFC South. But when I look at this roster right now, I can't technically say that the Julio Jones team makes them a 13-win team. It doesn't. It makes them probably at best a 10 or 11 win team going into next season.
Are they the favorites, though, with Julio Jones to at least win the AFC South?
Again, that's a big if, because I think that if you have Carson Wentz and what he's able to do with that defense, with that offensive line, with the weaponry in Indianapolis, and a great running game, plus Frank Reich, you could say that they're the favorites to win the AFC. Because if Carson Wentz can return to that 2017 form, where's the missing piece offensively for Indianapolis? Where's the missing piece defensively for Indianapolis? And that leads me to my conversation starter on why I'm not sold on the Tennessee Titans just yet. They were the worst team at stopping third down last season, allowing a 52% success rate on teams on less than 3rd and 5. That is a big number to watch for because they were not able to stop either the run or the pass. Part of the reason, they had one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL last season. They were one of 3 teams to finish under 20 sacks on the year. Now, again, a lot of people sit out here going, well, you look at what they added this offseason. They got Bud Dupree from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got Caleb Farley to play their outside cornerback, who seems to be an upgrade over a guy like a Dory Jackson. They got Elijah Molden, a really sticky, smooth defensive back to play that nickel position, kind of like the Logan Ryan role, that Desmond King role. Sure, all those things are true, but all those things also have to hit immediately. You have to be coming out the gate. You have Bud Dupree coming off a torn ACL. You have Caleb Farley coming with medical concerns all throughout his final season when he opted out for the start of the year. You have Molden, who knows what he's going to be able to do if he's up to NFL speed. I like Tennessee a lot, but I look at my roster right now. I did last night my power rankings in the AFC. Number 1 to me is still Kansas City, but right below them is Buffalo. I mean, we're talking an inch away. If Josh Allen has the same season as Patrick Mahomes did last year, Buffalo actually takes the lead for me over Kansas City. Number 3 right now is Cleveland, because I think Cleveland has the defense to actually win some games. Number 4 for me, I would say, is Tennessee because of the offense. Number 5 to me is Indianapolis, because I think that they're going to need at least some stability on Carson Wentz. And then I'd go in number 6, Baltimore. So Tennessee's there. They're just not right there yet. But I do think that they will be the favorites to win the AFC South if the defense can come and play.
Talking NFL with Cole Thompson from Sports Illustrated in his weekly spot here on the Jake Asman Show. Cole, Tyrod Taylor, as we stay with the AFC South, spoke to the media for the first time on Friday. You look at Tyrod Taylor and the Texans. I mean, obviously the team's probably not going to be any good. But as far as Tyrod being like the veteran answer, replacing Deshaun Watson, I don't know if there's a better guy you could put in that situation because he's done it with Baker Mayfield when he was a rookie in Cleveland. He did it with Justin Herbert last year with the Chargers. He knows Pep Hamilton. He has familiarity with David Culley. Do you think Tyrod Taylor's the right guy to handle what is obviously a bad situation here in Houston?
My girlfriend Kirsten, she loves TikTok, and we were watching a video a couple of days ago where they were talking about the future of the quarterbacks of the NFL. And they said Tyrod Taylor is the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I absolutely agree with that, and I 100% agree that when you look at what the Houston Texans need right now, it's stability. It's really strong stability for a franchise that is in turmoil. Tyrod Taylor fits that bill almost beautifully. In every single spot that he has been, he has acted as not just a leader, but also a mentor to the young quarterback. You kind of brought it up with Baker Mayfield. He also did it with Nathan Peterman in Buffalo. It's just the problem was that Peterman was a god-awful quarterback. But he also was able to learn under Joe Flacco while he was able to get a Super Bowl ring in the process. And Joe Flacco, John Harbaugh, that system is very well respected in the NFL for how they command excellence, how they command the room when they walk into the building. That's exactly what you need for a franchise that has no direction, has no idea what's the purpose, what's going to be the record. They need a guy like Tyrod Taylor, but they really need a guy like Tyrod Taylor because if they are banking so hard on Davis Mills to at least have the opportunity to start. I mean, you look at his track record of what he did for Baker Mayfield, what he did last season with Justin Herbert, and what he's done in the past for other young quarterbacks. He also came out and said multiple times, I'm not going to hide any information. It's my job now as the old guy to deliver the next bit of information to the young group of quarterbacks. That's exactly what you want. He knows Pep Hamilton. He knows David Culley. He knows the team very well. He has ties. He has connections. All those things play, I think, a major factor into why Tyrod elected to agree to come to Houston. But I do think that when you look at what should happen, you're hoping that Tyrod can be a stable person and get the job done while Mills shows over time we are worthy of using our early pick on you, our very first pick in the NFL draft, because we believe you can actually be the future face of the organization. So it has to be a smooth transition from Tyrod to Mills, but if it does, he's the perfect fit.
How many games do we see Davis Mills play in 2021?
I think I said this last week. I'm still going to go with 12. I think he starts about 7. I would say by that mid-season point, you have to figure out, are you going to go stick with Mills or are you not? Because here's the reality of it. I think Houston at their best is a 5-win team. I think that they can get a couple of sneak wins. I think they can beat Jacksonville week 1. I think that they can definitely beat the New York Jets. There's a lot of ways they can go to where I think they can get some wins, but they're 5 wins. That's probably picking in the top 5 still. But look at the other needs. They need a number 1 cornerback. They need a number 1 pass rusher, and they need to get better on the offensive line. I think overall, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Larry Tunsil. Maybe they try to trade him. I don't know. But there's a lot of talent up there. Guys like LSU's Derek Stingley, guys like Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, guys like Evan Neal out of Alabama. And then there's the quarterback battle. You have to decide by, I would say, week 15, we're moving off Mills. We got to get a guy. We got to get somebody in the building because that helps you set up free agency pretty well on what positions you need to address in that certain aspect of the game. So I think that you'll see Mills start 7 games at the midseason point, close out the year, but Tyrod is going to be the starter, I think, for at least the first 9. I do, though, expect Mills to get some playing reps, some drives during the first 5-6 weeks of the season.
Cole Thompson on Twitter at Mr. Cole Thompson is where you can follow him. He covers the NFL for Sports Illustrated and Fansided. He's joining us here in his weekly spot as we talk all things NFL with him. As far as the Aaron Rodgers situation, Cole, I believe Green Bay's mandatory minicamp begins tomorrow. Does he show up? I think the answer is no. So what happens next with Aaron Rodgers?
Well, if he doesn't show up, he's now subject to a fine. He's already taken $500,000 off of a bonus workout because if he did not go to voluntary OTAs. But again, the problem isn't that he didn't go to voluntary OTAs. He always went to voluntary OTAs. For him not to show up was a big statement. This is a statement to where the Packers now can fire back. If he misses mandatory minicamp, he will be fined over $90,000 this upcoming offseason. So $90,000 seems like chump change to a guy like Aaron Rodgers, to you and I. It's basically a mortgage on a house, so we understand that this is what it means. But I now know that the Packers can say, listen, You want to play hardball with us? We can play hardball with y'all. And the biggest thing is that this is not coming from the Packers. This is coming from the NFL as a whole. At that point, I think that you'll kind of know that where the range of Aaron Rodgers' situation is. But at the same time, I've said this multiple times. I've said this on the show. I looked at Green Bay, and I think Green Bay is the best place for him to win right now. I don't think that if you go to the AFC, especially if you go to Las Vegas, if you go to Denver, you're automatically set to win. You look at the quarterbacks in the NFC versus the quarterbacks in the AFC. You got to get past two, and Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford. If you get past them, I see you going to the Super Bowl. I think that they're in a really good spot to be contenders. I kind of like most of their moves this offseason. I wasn't super high on the Eric Stokes pick, but the more and more you look at it, they do need a number two cornerback to pair with Jair Alexander, so you can kind of get behind it. Overall, if he doesn't show up, I'm not going to make a big deal out of this. I still do not see him getting traded on before the start of the season, and I still do not see Aaron Rodgers reporting to training camp. So at this point, it's a moot point. Just don't expect anything. And the second you stop expecting things, the second the story will die. And honestly, we're at that point where if there's no news sometimes is good news. And I don't know what the bad news is here, but Aaron Rodgers going to minicamp, cool. Aaron Rodgers doesn't go to minicamp, cool. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it until Mark Murphy comes out and says we're listening to offers.
Cole Thompson, SI NFL writer with us here. Cole, out of all the free agents that are still out there, which one to you is the most surprising that they're still available as we sit here and talk on June 7th?
I go KJ Wright from the Seattle Seahawks. I feel like that's a move that when you look at the linebacker position, especially with somebody who's maybe trying to prove on a 1-year deal, maybe 1 year, $5 million, that I still have what it takes to be a true thumper at the position. And what he's done in Seattle for his entire life, I mean, that's one of those where it's very hard to get behind and you're wondering, is there a medical concern? Is there something that we're not knowing about KJ's status that makes him a free agent? Is he wanting too much money? Is he looking for too much of a multi-year deal with multiple guarantees involved? Is he trying to play for only a certain number of teams? What's the reason why KJ Wright has not been signed? Because there's a lot of teams. I think the Indianapolis culture won with the loss of Anthony Walker that makes a ton of sense. Going to a defense under Matt Eberflus, very similar to what is run in Seattle, and be able to play that same role, that same factor alongside one of the best, Darius Leonard, makes a lot of sense. The other one is Melvin Ingram. Melvin Ingram, the way I look at him, he's a pass rusher. Every team needs pass rushing. Every team that's trying to contend wants to put pressure on a quarterback. And even though he's regressed opposite of Joey Bosa in Los Angeles, you still want to be able to have a number two quality pass rusher. And for nobody to even make an offer for him, for him to still be on the market this late, it's a question of, do they worry about production? Is he asking for too much? Are we looking at a Jadeveon Clowney 2.0 situation? What's going on? Why is this happening? Why is he not signed? I'm very shocked that both these two are still on the market.
Cole Thompson, SI, has been our guest at Mr. Cole Thompson on Twitter. You can read his work at Sports Illustrated and Fansided. Cole, appreciate the time. Great stuff as always. We'll talk soon, man.
I'll see you next week.
Cole Thompson with us there on the Progressive guest line. Drivers who save with Progressive save over $750 on average. Up next, we wrap up our show with a Charles Barkley impression. You have to hear to actually believe it's not actually Chuck. We'll talk about that and play it for you next here on the Jake Asman Show.
The Jake Asman Show.
Roger Goodell is